Gilly in HBO's Game of Thrones.
That's iconic roles, yeah.
But listen, we aren't here to do like a celebrity recap. We're using her very real and very terrifying experience to figure out what happens when the totally unregulated wellness industry essentially weaponizes our deepest traumas.
It is a fascinating look at a really dangerous intersection. We're examining this incredibly blurry line between intense artistic dedication, severe psychological trauma, and the seductive promises of people who basically claim they can heal you.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand how she gets to the quote-unquote magic, we really have to start with the harsh reality of her daily life at that time.
Right, the catalyst.
Yeah. So we're setting the scene in Boston. It's the summer of 2016. Murray is on the set of a major film called Detroit, which is being directed by the Academy Award winner Kathryn Bigelow.
Huge project.
Massive. And the film is this incredibly intense recreation of the Detroit uprising in 1967, focusing specifically on a horrifying night of police brutality at the Algiers Motel where 3 young black men were actually murdered.
And the atmosphere she describes on the set is, I mean, it's incredibly vivid. It's a total full sensory overload.
Right.
Like, she talks about the sweet smell of marshmallow root and rose petals from these prop cigarettes just kind of hanging in the humid air. And that contrasts super sharply with the feeling of this syrupy, sticky, fake blood that's literally drying on her face.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she is basically a cog in this massive, highly realistic apparatus that's designed entirely to recreate a profound historical trauma.
And Murray is playing a character named Julie. And Julie is one of 2 white women who were interrogated and abused by police that night.
Oh.
But here's the kicker, and the thing that just adds so much unbearable pressure to the situation.
Oh, yeah, this part is wild.
The real woman that this character is based on is actually on set every single day. They hang out, they smoke cigarettes together. So Murray feels this immense, just crushing responsibility to do justice to this living woman's actual trauma.
And what's really fascinating here is Murray's baseline approach to her craft, like even before the pressure of the specific role. She mentions speaking to an acting coach who described a method of opening yourself up to let a character, quote unquote, come through you.
By channeling them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The coach described it as almost shamanic. And Murray desperately wanted to be this empty vessel for the character's pain. She really wanted to absorb it completely.
Hold on, though. I have to push back on that a bit.
Sure.
Like, why would anyone voluntarily subject themselves to that level of emotional possession? Because if you look at her history, this isn't just a one-off thing for her. It's a total pattern.
That's true.
She seems to actively seek out punishment and disguise it as art. She talks about how physical and grueling her career had been up to this point. I mean, for her role in Skins, she literally swallowed over 100 actual Tic Tacs to simulate an overdose. And then she had to vomit up this minty liquid. And then for a Danish film, she hung from a tree in a harness that left these angry red welts under her arms.
It speaks to a very specific kind of dedication, honestly, where suffering is directly equated with authenticity. She liked enduring for her art.
Yeah.
She actually viewed the tapestry of blue and purple bruises she was getting on the set of Detroit as a privilege.
Wow.
But there is always a breaking point, and this highlights a really fundamental truth about human physiology. The conscious mind might know it's a movie set, right, with cameras and catering, but the nervous system does not.
Which brings us to the inciting incident of her actual breakdown. So there's a scene where her character's dress is ripped off by a police officer who's played by an actor named Ben O'Toole.
Right.
And movie making is so repetitive, they have to do it over and over. Ben grabs the fabric, he pulls hard, the dress rips, her breasts are exposed to a room full of crew members, and she covers herself. Cut, reset, do it again, and again, and again.
It's exhausting.
Totally. Now, Kathryn Bigelow is being incredibly kind between takes. She's offering Murray Diet Coke, asking if she needs a break. She's even asking if she wants to take a tropical holiday when it's all over. But Murray's body is absorbing the repeated action as an actual sexual assault.
Because the physiological response she describes afterwards is just textbook trauma. She's trembling with adrenaline, her nerves are literally on fire. She describes the physical sensation of having been hit by a car.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She goes back to her hotel room and just violently vomits into the toilet. And the next day, her muscles are in such complete agony that during a massage, she literally starts howling in pain.
Okay, let me throw an analogy at you because I was trying to wrap my head around how fake trauma causes real, actual muscular damage.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think of it like running a marathon on a treadmill. You're staring at a screen showing the French countryside or whatever.
Mhm.
The scenery around you is completely full. Look, you aren't actually traveling anywhere.
But the physical exhaustion is real.
Exactly. Your heart rate is spiking to 170 beats per minute. There's sweat. There are microscopic tears in your leg muscles. That wear and tear is 100% real. The body doesn't care about the context of the screen, you know?
Right.
It only responds to the physical demand being placed on it.
That is a perfect way to conceptualize it. Her intense desire to be that shamanic, empty vessel effectively stripped away all her psychological defenses. She basically invited the trauma in, and her sympathetic nervous system, her fight-or-flight response, was just firing on all cylinders.
It's totally overloaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her brain was flooding her body with cortisol and adrenaline because it legitimately thought she was under attack. She was quite literally experiencing trauma regardless of the cameras.
And because her nervous system was so overloaded, traditional therapy probably felt way too slow for her.
Yeah.
She was desperate for an immediate reset. Like she needed the hurting to stop right now.
Right.
And in that state of vulnerability, a casual recommendation from her personal trainer to go see an quote-unquote energy healer suddenly didn't sound so crazy.
And notice who the recommendation comes from here. It's Aubrey, her personal trainer. He's deeply concerned about Murray's sudden weight loss and all these terrible bruises.
Naturally.
So he suggests she see a woman named Grace. He warns her that it's a bit woo-woo, but he implies Grace could help clear the heavy energy of the film. And this is really how the wellness industry often works. It utilizes trusted figures in the physical health space as a kind of gateway into totally unregulated mental and spiritual treatments.
And Murray is uniquely vulnerable at this specific moment in her life, too. She mentioned she previously identified as a militant agnostic, but right after she landed this prestigious role in Detroit, instead of celebrating, she spiraled into a really severe depression.
Yeah, she was really struggling.
It's classic imposter syndrome, just a real paralyzing fear of success. And in her desperation, she had already started reading self-help books like The Inner Fix. She was getting into meditation, essentially trading her atheism for a desperate search for spiritual relief.
She even describes those self-help books as her gateway drugs. They prime you to accept a culture that promises absolute simple answers for incredibly complex human suffering.
Right.
So she takes the leap. She shows up at Grace's pristine, super minimalist apartment in Boston. There's soft, undulating music playing, and there's a tiny tortoise in a glass tank.
Which is, I mean, it's designed to be deeply disarming.
Completely. It signals safety, purity, and ancient wisdom all at the same time.
And disarming really is the key word here.
Yeah.
Because the psychological manipulation starts immediately. Murray sits down and asks Grace to explain what she does. And Grace basically says, no, I don't want to do that first. You tell me why you're here. You tell me your trauma.
It's a brilliant, if highly predatory, inversion of the power dynamic. Think about traditional therapy. The therapist establishes boundaries, they explain the methodology, and they secure informed consent.
Always.
But here, the practitioner demands your deepest vulnerabilities up front without offering any framework of what the treatment actually is or how it even works.
To me, it feels exactly like a hacker using social engineering. You know, you don't try to break through a company's complicated firewall with brute force code. You just call the receptionist, act incredibly sympathetic, pretend you're from IT, and get them to hand over the password.
Exactly.
By making Murray open up first, Grace completely bypassed all of Murray's intellectual defenses and gained direct access to her deepest emotional source code.
And once that firewall is down, Murray gives her everything. She talks about the grueling acting industry, all the dark roles, the depression, but then she reveals this profound, closely guarded secret. Her mother had 5 miscarriages before Murray was born.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Murray carries this immense foundational survivor's guilt, feeling like she essentially has to live enough life for 6 people.
That is incredibly heavy. To walk around your whole life feeling like you owe the universe for 5 other souls. And how does Grace respond to this massive outpouring of childhood trauma? She gives her a pitch.
Right, a sales pitch.
She essentially says, look, I offer basic Reiki, which is like a massage, but I also have ancient, powerful tools for people who really want to get in there and sort their shit out. And oh, by the way, it costs $150.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the exact mechanism of the extreme end of the wellness industry. It monetizes vulnerability, it looks at deeply complex existential human pain things like survivor's guilt or clinical depression, and it offers a definitive commodified solution.
Right.
And notice the phrasing there. She frames the cure as something only for the brave, for the people who really want to sort their shit out. That appeals directly to Murray's core identity. Murray is someone who prides herself on enduring pain for a higher purpose, like hanging from tree harnesses or swallowing Tic Tacs.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because Murray pays the $150 and the healing session begins. And we have to talk about the physical sensations she experiences, because according to her, they are totally undeniable.
Yes. So she starts seated, and then Grace asks her to stand. Now, Grace never physically touches her.
Right, no touching.
But Murray closes her eyes and feels her body being moved by an invisible force. She says she's swaying back and forth like a blade of grass in the breeze.
And then out of nowhere, this random childhood memory surfaces. She's 6 years old at a botanical garden on something called the Black Cat Trail.
Yeah.
She remembers her mother later mocking her on the phone about it, which
Right.
made her 6-year-old self feel just deeply betrayed.
Yeah.
But in this session, suddenly, she feels absolute forgiveness for her mother, for her bullies, for her exes. She starts laughing hysterically, and then she's weeping hot tears.
It's an incredibly profound catharsis. But the session isn't all joyful. Grace uses these unseen quote-unquote tools that Murray experiences as a thin metal rod poking into the back of her skull.
Ouch.
She says it feels hot like fire, intensely painful, but she endures it as a necessary purge to remove the negativity.
Okay, I really have to push back here, or at least play the skeptic for a minute. What is actually happening in that room? Because Grace is not touching her. Is this just the placebo effect on steroids?
Well, it's deeply rooted in what psychologists call somatic experiencing. Basically, the idea is that trauma isn't just a memory filed away in your brain. The actual physiological energy of fight or flight gets physically trapped in your nervous system.
Wait, so you're saying the body basically acts like a battery, storing all this panicked kinetic energy?
Exactly. You have a highly suggestible actor, someone whose literal job is to manifest physical and emotional realities out of thin air, who is carrying the acute trauma of a simulated sexual assault and the chronic trauma of severe depression.
Right.
When a confident authority figure creates a safe, permissive environment and tells her you are being purged of pain, Murray's body finally feels safe enough to literally discharge that pent-up energy. The magic in the room might not be real, but the physical pressure release valve absolutely was.
That is incredibly powerful. She leaves that apartment absolutely convinced of 3 words. Magic is real. Grace gives her these mysterious clear drops in little blue bottles to take morning and night and tells her not to drink alcohol because there is so much quote-unquote light coming through her now.
And that newly cemented belief that she now contains a special light and that magic is real becomes the catalyst for everything that follows. She has effectively crossed a threshold from simply seeking relief for a bruised nervous system to fully surrendering to magical thinking.
Because if magic is real, the rules of reality no longer apply to you. She returns to the set of Detroit for her final scenes and feels completely blissed out. She shoots a simple scene in a courtroom and feels she suddenly has acting superpowers.
She is experiencing the pendulum swing of the human psyche.
Right, because when she wraps the film, she gets a massive round of applause from the crew, and she describes feeling incredibly special. But that zen, enlightened state doesn't last in a quiet, peaceful way.
Not at all.
It spirals into manic, erratic behavior. Despite Grace's strict warning about alcohol, just a few days later, she drinks 9 vodkas and wine. She blacks out and has anonymous sex in a dark club bathroom with a guy who looks like Kurt Cobain.
And what's crucial is how her brain interprets this chaos. She notices that her desires are manifesting immediately. She wanted to sleep with that man, and it happened.
Yeah.
She attributes this entirely to the energy healing. The boundaries of reality are starting to bend to her will, or at least her traumatized brain is connecting dots that aren't really there just to maintain the euphoria.
So why the sudden swing to mania, though? Is it just the relief of the movie being over?
It's more likely her brain flooding itself with dopamine. When you've been sitting in severe pain and depression, and you suddenly find a quote-unquote magic escape hatch, the brain often overcorrects. It floods the system with feel-good chemicals to avoid processing the very real pain she just endured on that movie set.
And this manic energy bleeds into a highly obsessive romantic dynamic back in London with a guy named Sam, who she describes as a shortage Harry Potter.
Shortage Harry Potter, yeah.
They have this totally chaotic history, taking MDMA in unicorn onesies at a country house, kissing in a kitchen, hooking up after a birthday party where she talks obsessively about death. It's a very messy push and pull dynamic.
It's a relationship defined by high highs and crushing lows, which perfectly mirrors her internal state at the time. She is chasing transcendence at all costs, whether it's through energy healing, MDMA, or an obsessive romance. She is looking for literally anything that keeps her elevated above the pain.
Which leads us to the climax of this entire journey. It's the end of the summer, she has finished filming, and she diverts her trip to meet Sam in New York City. And he has tickets to see Kanye West's St. Pablo tour at Madison Square Garden.
Now, to understand the weight of this moment for her, we really have to look at why she is so drawn to Kanye specifically at this point in her life. She views him not just as a musician, but as living proof of the link between genius and madness.
Interesting.
She had been listening heavily to his track Feedback, where he says, "Name one genius that ain't crazy."
So it's a form of psychological mirroring.
Precisely. She wasn't just going to a concert. She was looking into a mirror. She was watching someone publicly blur the lines between genius, madness, and divinity. Her traumatized brain was actively seeking an external figure who embodied chaos and spiritual elevation to validate her own internal unraveling.
So they are at Madison Square Garden. The stage is literally floating, suspended above the massive crowd. And during the final song, Ultralight Beam, it happens again.
The feeling.
The exact same invisible force from Grace's living room returns. She feels her body physically swayed by it, buoying her arms up. She feels she's being danced by the light. It solidifies her absolute belief that magic is real, and she is tapped into it.
Now, mandatory pause here for a second. The source material delves into some political territory regarding Kanye West, and we need to be crystal clear with you, the listener. We are strictly reporting the historical context exactly as it is laid out in Hannah Murray's memoir. We are not endorsing or taking sides on any of the political figures or statements mentioned.
Right. Because Murray notes that after the concert, she and Sam discuss live performance as a religious experience, and Sam asks, "I wonder how he's going to have us crucify him." And the memoir factually notes that it later shows on that tour, Kanye delivered rants telling black people to stop focusing on racism, and stated he would have voted for Donald Trump.
The author includes this specifically to show the trajectory of the figures she was idolizing at her most vulnerable. She told Sam this might be a crucifixion, but that means there will be a resurrection to come. She is viewing everything, even a celebrity's very public unraveling, entirely through this lens of myth, magic, and spiritual destiny.
This raises an important question, right?
Yeah.
For you, the listener, how do we distinguish between a genuine spiritual breakthrough and a psychological break? Because looking at her actions, the superpowers, the blackout drinking, feeling physically moved by invisible forces at a stadium concert, viewing pop culture through a messianic lens, are we looking at enlightenment? Or are we looking at a traumatized mind doing backflips to avoid reality?
This raises an important question about the danger of feeling uniquely chosen. When you start to believe you are operating on a magical frequency that the rest of the world just doesn't understand, you detach from reality. We see this energy in megachurches, in massive stadium concerts, and definitely in the extreme fringes of the wellness industry.
Yeah, the euphoria.
It harnesses the vulnerability of the human psyche and weaponizes it. The initial physical relief she felt in that apartment was real, but the ideological framework built around it was highly unstable.
So what does this all mean? If we step back and look at the whole picture, we have an actor who literally bruised and starved herself for her art, who absorbed the trauma of a simulated sexual assault into her actual nervous system. And in her desperation to heal, she fell into the arms of an unregulated wellness industry that promised her magic.
And she got it. Or at least she got the bodily sensation of it. She experienced profound physical and emotional shifts through somatic release, but those shifts didn't ground her. They launched her into a state of manic euphoria and chaotic behavior, leaving her vulnerable to even deeper psychological breaks down the line.
It really makes you think about the things we reach for when we are hurting. We all have our own versions of the energy healer or the mysterious drops in the blue bottles.
We really do.
Maybe it's not a $150 aura cleanse. Maybe it's a toxic relationship or a substance, or even just burying ourselves in work until we literally burn out.
Yeah.
We cling to these fixes because the alternative, just sitting alone in a room with our own pain and waiting for it to pass, is absolutely terrifying.
It is the fundamental human condition to seek an exit from suffering. But the tragedy here is that the exit she was sold was an illusion that required her to dismantle her own grip on reality.
Which brings us back to that question we started with. If you are drowning in invisible pain, and someone hands you a magic potion that actually makes the hurting stop, does it matter that the potion is just tap water? Does it matter that the cure is make-believe if the physical relief is real?
That is the ultimate paradox of the placebo.
Or does the real danger lie in what the make-believe demands of you after you're hooked? Once you believe the magic is real, what are you willing to do to keep the pain from coming back? Something to think about the next time you find yourself looking for a quick fix.